Greetings, it is I, Tantus Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to talk about D20 Modern, the 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons take on the modern world. Now, we were talking about equipment last time. There's a lot more stuff to talk about for equipment. It's a complex thing because you're in a modern world where we have a lot of junk. But let's talk about black markets. Now, there's a time and a place where you don't want to go through channels, getting a license, take the time to do that, get your thing. You can go to a black market. In order to find a black market, it requires a knowledge streetwise check, and the difficulty is going to depend on a little bit on what kind of location you're looking in, and also the size of the city. Bigger city is going to have much more of a black market than a smaller one, but also different types of cities are going to have different differences. It's going to be up to your game master to determine what you're going to have as a difficulty. Regardless, then you can purchase it at an increased price. The increased price is going to be listed under whatever the type of thing you're getting. A restricted or licensed item is going to be cheaper than getting a illegal item through the black market, but it will increase the price of whatever you're finding, and then it's just a check similar to any other wealth check in order to get with an increased price. Now, that same chart will also tell you how many days it will take you to receive your item. Now, you can reduce the number of days it takes you. For a +1 cost that you initially would have been rolling at, you can reduce the time it would have taken you to get that item to a minimum of 1 day. So if my item would have taken 2 days, I could have my cost go up by 1 in order to reduce it to 1 day that I'm spending waiting around for my black market item to go into. Now, moving on from black market, there are organizations, and if you are a member of organization, it is possible for you to requisition equipment from it. This could be anything from law enforcement or to some of the organizations that are mentioned in the book. Now, in order to requisition an item from your organization, it is going to be a level check. The DC is going to be the DC of whatever item you're purchasing. Now, it's not just going to be your level, though. You can add your charisma modifier, if you have any, to that check. And there are some things that it will lists in the book that will modify this check to either make it harder or easier. Now, the thing is, when you get this item, you are only being loaned it, unless it is a consumable item. Like if you're requisitioning some kind of medication or ammo, they're not expecting that back. But if you requisition a gun from them, then yes, they're going to expect you to return it to them when you're done with it. Now, if it's a common item, or if you beat the DC of the check by 5 or more, you can actually get this in more than 1 day. Normally it's going to take a day or a couple of days to get it, but you can reduce the time to 1d4 hours if you beat it by that amount, or if it's a common item. Now, you can sell equipment. When you sell an item, you sell it at 3 less than whatever the value would be that you originally would have had to purchase it at. So whatever the DC to purchase it, you subtract 3 from that. Then, when you're selling it, you compare it to how much you would have had to spend in order to get it in the first place. How much your wealth would have dropped to get this item after you've subtracted that 3. So if, let's say I have a bonus of 10 and I'm getting something that would have a bonus of 20. Now, I would have lost a whole big chunk. Now, subtracting 3 from that means I would have lost as much money. So that's what it is you subtract 3 from it, and however much money you would lose purchasing that item then is how much you gain. And this is reflected even if it's like higher than DC 15, you still get that +1 that you would gain back. Now, if it's some kind of restricted, licensed, etc. type of item, you cannot sell it unless you yourself have the proper license or permission to use such an item. So you would have had to gone through the channels in the first place to get permission to use that item in order to then sell that item. The exception of this would be selling something on the black market, which you are allowed to do. But if you sell something on the black market, you subtract an additional 3 from whatever the wealth would be when determining how much you would gain from it. So then you're subtracting 6. Now, you can get Mastercraft items. Mastercraft items give an additional bonus to whatever's using them, appropriate to whatever kind of item is, from +1 to +3. For each +1 that Mastercraft item gives you, you increase the purchase DC by 3. So if it's just a +1, it's 3 higher. If it's a +3, it's 9 higher. Now, there are some exceptions, that there are some items that are specifically made Mastercraft to begin with, and it will mention that under the description of such items, that they count as it to begin with. Those, you're not affecting the purchase DC to get them. It already has everything with Mastercraft built in. Now, you can conceal items. Specifically, it's normally for concealing weapons. If I'm concealing some kind of weapon, it requires then an attack action in order to draw it in the first place from whatever I concealed it. You can choose, of course, to put it in an easy-to-draw location and then still try to conceal it, but it makes it more difficult. So when I'm concealing it, it's a sleight of hand check that I have to make. Whenever someone is trying to notice if it's concealed, it is a spot check by them that is modified by a chart that depends on the size of the item and a couple other miscellaneous modifiers, including if I'm choosing for it to be easy to draw or difficult. Larger the item, if I have it in a more difficult position, it's easier for them to notice it. Also, there's circumstances like if someone's patting you down, that search check, they get a bonus to that because then they can use a search check rather than a spot check because they're searching you rather than spotting on you. There are other tools and items which might make it easier for them to detect things on you. For example, something like a metal detector might detect a metal gun a lot easier than just someone patting you down. Now you can conceal armor. There's concealed armor, which if you have it on, it is DC 30 to spot it on you. Just a flat score 30 to notice concealed armor. Now let's talk about weapons. In particular, let's start talking about ranged weapons first, because there are 3 groups of ranged weapons: pistols, long arms, and other ranged weapons. The other ranged weapons include things like bows and crossbows. Now you get your dex to attack with any kind of ranged weapon, and ranged weapons will have some basic statistics. It will list the damage it will deal. It lists its critical range. If it's just a 20, it means you just have to roll a 20 in order to critically threaten someone. Or it could say it's like 19 to 20, something like that. It might list it in there. It will tell you what type of damage it deals. Ballistic damage is gun damage. There's also energy damage, piercing damage, slashing damage. These are other types of damage that ranged attacks can deal to someone. A ranged attack will have an increment. Now what this increment means is how far you can fire without kind of penalties. So if it says it's 100 feet, I can fire 100 feet without penalty. I can fire higher than that, but I start getting a -2 penalty per increment I am above that, to a maximum of 10 increments away. So with my 100, I can fire 1,000 feet away, but I'm receiving a -18 at that point in time, because I'm 9 increments down the line. Now, thrown weapons, if you have something like a throwing knife or a shuriken or something, they can only go up to 5 increments. A little different than any other kind of ranged attack with their 10 increments. Now it will mention a rate of fire. There are 4 types of rate of fire. It can tell you 1, which means you have 1 shot before you have to reload or somehow do something in order to use the weapon again. It has single shot, meaning effectively I can get 1 shot off a turn before I can. Meaning I can really only get 1 shot off time. Semi-automatic, up to how many shots I can make in a turn, and fully automatic weapons. I'll talk about what all these mean a little later. Now it will mention what kind of magazine it is. There's 2 bits of information here. How many shots, whatever it is, can hold, how much ammunition it can hold, and then what type of clip or whatever type of thing it is that you're hooking into the weapon to hold said ammunition. The clip or whatever it is will describe how easy it is to reload this item. Certain ones are easier to reload than others. Now they talk about weapon size. Weapon size makes a big difference. If you have a small weapon, it means I could, of course, it's one-handed, and it would count as a light weapon for any purposes like that. A medium weapon is 1 or 2 hands I could use on it. A large weapon is you have to use 2 hands on it. And a huge weapon means I have to have some kind of pod or stability point or some kind of thing I'm mounting it to in order to use this weapon, because I can't certainly carry it and use it. Now a weapon will also list whatever kind of weight it has if you're looking into how much your character can carry. Now finally, any of these weapons will include purchase DC, very important. It will include it will then include what type of restrictions, if any, that item has, and what kind of increase it would be to purchase it on the black market. So that's it for today. I talked about getting an item on the black market, requisitioning one from whatever kind of organization, concealing an item on you, and I talked about some of the basic statistics of a lot of the weapons, and especially at this point in time, ranged weapons. In the next one, I'm going to go more over equipment. We might be able to finish it up next time. I'm going to talk about some of the basic information about all the different types of equipment and move through it. We'll see. In the meantime, if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, anything I left out, please leave it in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Show support for the channel, the empire, and the work I do. And until the next time, I bid you farewell.